Gridiron Grinder! Hut hut hike!
All right, we're rolling. It's Wednesday night, Gridiron Grinder time. I'm Ryan. With me, as always, is my buddy James. Just a couple of dudes hanging out, talking about what's going on in the NFL each week. This is episode 124 of Gridiron Grinder. Still going strong every week. And for tonight, we're going to kick things off with Name That Stadium like we always do. Then we're going to cover the news from this past week. After that, we're going to give you guys our Week 14 power rankings and game picks, and then we'll close it off with question of the week. And so, with all that being said, how's it going tonight, James?
It's going good. How's it going with you?
Going good, man. Going good. Getting it in early this week, and hey, that's good. Except lots of injury stuff we got to keep an eye on, and maybe make some tweaks going into the weekend. But I had actually plenty of time yesterday to get my stuff ready for tonight, so I felt good about it coming into the short week. How about you, man?
I had a little bit of time this afternoon. Not much to really delve into some stuff. We'll get into it in power rankings. There's a little bit of a shake up with this past week, and then, um, but yeah, it's just today was one of those days where everybody wanted something from me.
Their pound of flesh.
Yeah, so it's like can't do shit, but actually work. I mean, imagine that working while you're supposed to be. What the fuck is that?
Yeah, I mean, hey, I know this is a tangent, but there was like some study that I read years ago that in a 8-hour workday, the average employee only puts in like just shy of 4 hours of real work. It's like, oh, that's encouraging, and
Four,
that was probably
four
15
hours.
years ago. So it's probably only worse now than it was back then.
Shit, I seriously have a good 6 to 7 hours every day. Some days 8 to 10 hours. Some days a little bit less, but probably averages out to about like 6 to 7 hours a day.
Well, you got a better work ethic than the average person, so that's solid. All right,
It's
back.
either that or I just have too much shit that I have to get done that it's like I'm never checking off my to-do list.
Well, I mean, you're one of the only people working it for the government, apparently.
Apparently.
So, all right. Well, hey, man, back to the task at hand. Well, let's do a little name that stadium action, man. Why don't you run us through it?
All right, so this is a segment where I travel the country. Generally, during the regular season, I go to a stadium that's hosting a football game that weekend. I used to say home game, but then I threw in some international games, so it's no longer a home game. It's hosting a game that weekend. Um, and then, you guess it right, be the first one in the comments to guess it right. We'll give you an extra special shout out, maybe give you a bookmark so you can just play it on repeat. Um, and then we haven't had any takers in a while for it, but last week I was in Cincinnati for the Chiefs Chiefs Bengals game, and it's funny that the final score to that game was identical to the final score of their last game.
Okay.
So, but it was still a good game. Maybe a decision here or a decision there, and Chiefs win, but Cincinnati pulled it out.
Yeah. No, I mean, hey, a big win for them, showing the trajectory that they're on. After a little bit of a rocky start to the year. Um, you know, it was a good call on picking that one for last week for sure. And yeah, man, anybody who wants to play, I'm telling you, I will bookmark that shit in the description of the video. You can send it out to all your friends and family. Get your little 15 minutes of fame. You know you want it, so come on, hit us up. All right, let's move it on, James. And let's do our recap of the past week. And so for this past week, looking at the Week 13 surprises. I had noted a couple, and I think a couple of them are maybe a little bit debatable depending on some things. But, the first one, I fully expected Dallas to beat Indy, but I was a little bit surprised by like just how much they like totally beat the shit out of them. And a lot of that came in the fourth quarter, but still, I mean, when you put up 50 plus on somebody, you're laying the wood, man.
Yeah, ridiculous score. Indy started out hot. I mean, weren't they leading at the end of the first quarter, and then it was just downhill from there.
Yep. And then, sort of like a flip of that, which I didn't get to watch the game, and so maybe you got a little more intel than me, but I was surprised with Baltimore just barely pulling it off against Denver. I mean, it
You
was, we're used to seeing Denver basically not score points, but I think we were kind of expecting Baltimore to do more. We've talked about them. It seems like when they play good defenses, they get slowed down, but it just seemed like going up against a team that has no offense, they're going to get those opportunities, and that they should have put up more than that. But I know Lamar got a little beat up too, and so what did you?
a little beat up.
Well, he's going
So
to miss some time, but yeah, I mean, tell me about it, man.
so if I'm being honest with you, like I would have been surprised if Lamar hadn't played like a quarter, if that.
Well, see, that's what I needed to know. How early did he go out?
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to look it up. It was real fucking early. Like,
Okay.
I was, I, it was early enough to where I said to myself, shit,
Okay.
Baltimore's going to lose this game.
Well, and so
Uh,
then I heard in maybe you got some info on this, but originally I heard it was like a day-to-day, week-to-week kind of thing. Now they're saying he's for sure going to be out for at least this week, and he has a PCL issue. Have you heard anything on top of that?
I haven't heard much. Looking at the play-by-play, it looks like he got injured on the third drive of the game.
Okay.
Because on So he played the full first quarter. It was at the end of the first quarter he got hurt, and then the first play of the second quarter was when Huntley took over.
Gotcha.
So I mean, like I said, it was really early, but still, even with that, it was Baltimore hadn't scored yet. Like they hadn't done shit. Their first two drives, 3 plays 5 yards and 5 plays for 15 yards.
Mostly
So
stifled.
yeah, so they were fairly stifled. So I guess you might be right. It might be more than I thought, more than just Lamar being out. And as far as his injury goes, I haven't heard much. I had heard that I hadn't heard much of exactly what the injury was, but I had heard enough that there was speculation, and we'll probably get to this. I'll kind of segue into this with Baker being cut. I had heard enough. It was severe enough that everyone was talking about, well, could Baltimore claim Baker?
Gotcha. Okay.
And so that kind of clued me in as
Yeah.
to like, wait,
Do you know if they
it's
even put in a claim for him? I know there was a thing about the 49ers passed on going after him. Not that they were going to get him anyhow since the Rams took him, but
the only team that put in a claim was the Rams.
really? Wow.
Yeah, the
Um,
only
damn.
team, according to what I heard.
Yeah, and so this is just me, and we'll get to this. I'll hint it for the end here, but um, I would it wouldn't have made a difference, but I was thinking, geez, man, it'd be good for the Lions to put in a claim just in case the Rams hesitated because you want to block them from adding any kind of talent that's going to help them win games from here on out. But we'll talk more about that later, man.
Yeah, I that's I hear. We'll talk about that later.
Yeah. I mean, hey, it didn't matter. So, but all right. So, talking about Detroit, they crushed the Jags. I think we both picked them to win, but it was a pretty good beatdown. Not like the Dallas over Indy, but pretty solid. Did that surprise you at all that it was that big of a win?
It did a little bit. It was more of the like ebb and flow of the game because it wasn't just like that. They won 40-14, but it was just pure straight across the board dominance
Yeah.
by the Lions, and that's what surprised me.
Yeah, and I mean, I'll tell you, man, I was at that game. It was awesome. Ford Field, was banging. We ended up having club seats, which was pretty sweet. But yeah, I mean, just the whole game, it felt like we had momentum. Maybe there was a couple times where we didn't have momentum, but and then there was that hit on Trevor Lawrence. I don't know if you saw that, where his like leg got bent
Hmm.
backwards. I thought, oh shit, here we go. That's going to be end of the season for him. But interestingly enough, he's on the injury report for a dislocated toe, not the knee, and so that's a good thing. And he
Yeah,
did play later in the game, so I mean, I think he was able to shake it off, but it looked kind of scary when it happened.
yeah. When that happened, my first thought was, wow, that's his season.
Yeah,
And then I'm glad because I mean Trevor Lawrence is a talented quarterback. I'm glad it's not anything serious, but I seriously thought, well, his season's over.
oh yeah, it was nasty. And so then James, the last one I got for tonight is the Raiders over the Chargers, man. I mean, I definitely did not see that coming. I've seen a number of articles since Sunday talking about, well, the Chargers just aren't doing Herbert any favors. The offensive line is all banged up, receivers banged up, defense banged up, all these things, just excuses, excuses, excuses. And yeah, I mean, I just can't help but think you're supposed to be like a potential Super Bowl team, and you're losing to the Raiders, I guess they're finally starting to stack up some wins, like kind of sneakily under the radar here, but I don't know, man. They should have won that game, in my opinion.
Yeah, you know, I just I don't know what to say about the Raiders or the Chargers.
Yeah.
I mean, it's this season's kind of like same old Chargers. Like whatever's going to go wrong for them goes wrong, or whatever
Yeah.
could go wrong goes wrong, and it just I mean they didn't really address their rush defense in the offseason, and that's where the biggest issue is. I mean shit. Jacobs had another 144 yard game. I mean Devontae Adams had damn near 200 yards receiving. It's like
Oh, he torched them. Yeah.
did the defense even show up?
Yeah, I mean, hey, the Khalil Mack thing looked good on paper. Who was the other one? J.C. Jackson or whatever was
Hmm.
another signing that they had looked good on paper. Um, I guess Bosa's had some injury issues, whatever. I mean, it just nothing's coming together for him.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, it seemed like this could have been the turning point, but yeah, like you said, the same stuff they've always got. It's like they're snake bitten with the injuries, and it just continues. And so, you know, sucks for them. But um, I don't know. Those were the ones that surprised me, man. Was there anything else that stuck out for you this past week?
Yeah, and it's a little bit of a little bit of a rant as long as a surprise. I mean, the
Sure.
Tampa Bay New Orleans game on Monday night, man, that was a fucking terrible game.
Yeah.
First of all,
Yeah.
secondly, so I lost in my other league by 4 points. The guy I was playing had Tom Brady. When I went to bed, not went to bed. When I turned off the game and stopped paying attention and was doing other shit, Brady had like 10 fucking points.
Yeah.
He ends up getting 28 and I lose the fucking game. I'm up by 18 going into the fourth quarter of the game and I ended up losing my fucking fantasy matchup.
Yeah, that's a big
But
swing.
my rant on it is fucking okay. First of all, Mark Ingram, be a man, take a hit. You're a yard from the first down marker. You know, at least take a knee in the middle of the field if you don't want to get hit.
Yeah.
Second of all,
Well,
third
he's
and
got an MCL tear now.
I did not know that, but I don't give a fuck.
All
I
right.
don't give a fuck.
I'm
Don't
I'm
run out of
creeping
bounds.
ahead, but yeah, keep going on your rant, man.
Don't don't run out of bounds. You need to bleed that clock. Second second of all, Dennis Allen, what the fuck are you doing passing on 3rd and 1? You run the ball. If you don't get it, the clock's moving. I mean, that's 40 seconds right there that you could eat off the clock.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah,
it's
I fell asleep at the end, dude. It was just honestly, from the start, it was just a bad game. It was hard to watch, and it's
Yeah.
there's good defensive football, and then there's just poor football, and this was like in the poor football class. It's
Hmm.
not like the defenses were just like lighting people up. It's that
No.
they were just dysfunctional pretty much all around, all the way through.
Yeah, I think if I remember correctly, I think like I want to say I want to say like Tampa Bay had like total in the game going into the fourth quarter there was like 300 yards of total offense.
Okay,
And then
underwhelming.
yeah, I mean it might not be that fucking low, but it was low. And then ultimately there was, I mean, so it's like 300.
Oh, you got Speed Racer out there.
Yeah. So it's like Tampa Brady had like 180 yards going in the fourth quarter. He had like 100 yards passing in the fucking fourth quarter alone. It's just
Yeah.
seriously. And Ingram just take a knee in the middle of the goddamn field.
He's, I mean, should be should know better at this stage of his career, but I guess everybody makes mental mistakes here and there. Um, all right, are you good on the rant?
Yeah, I'm good on the rant.
Okay. So injury wise, this past week we touched on Lamar, we touched on Mark Ingram, touched on Trevor Lawrence. The other one that was big was Jimmy G, broke his foot. That's
Mhm.
obviously going to be a huge impact for the 49ers, even though what's his face, Brock Purdy, came out of nowhere and, looks like he ran Shanahan's offense pretty well, but very small
That's
sample
the other
size.
surprise of the week was how much San Francisco dominated Miami even with their backup quarterback.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. I guess when I looked at that one, I thought, I thought San Francisco was going to win, but it was a really healthy win. Yeah, and yeah, Jimmy G went down. So yeah,
Yeah, I'm
uh,
trying to think when he went down. It was
it had to be early enough that Purdy got some stats because people have been talking him up like all week so far. So, and if you're looking that up, man, I'll just close it out here with the last injury that I had, which was really a carryover injury. But Von Miller, he had exploratory surgery on his knee.
hmm
Didn't think he was going to be out for the year. Thought, he might be able to just miss a couple games, come back from his short-term IR. Looks like he's got an ACL tear, and so they just went ahead and did the surgery, and now he is in fact out for the season.
yeah. So it looks like it was with 11 and a half minutes in the left in the first quarter that Garoppolo got hurt. Miami was up 7-3 at that time,
Okay.
and San Francisco ended up winning 33-17.
Yeah, it was a solid beatdown,
Yeah.
especially
So
with the backup quarterback.
yeah, and I did hear about the Von Miller thing, and I mean that sucks. Like that's going to be a big hit in the playoffs for Buffalo.
Oh yeah, yeah, I agree. It was a big move. They paid him a lot of money, but
Hmm.
you can't predict injuries, and it's not about the
Yeah,
money. It's just that he was the premier signing for them, basically.
yeah.
All right, man. So in other news for this past week, I saw, OBJ did his visit with the Cowboys. Supposedly it was a 2-day visit. There was some hype. Ended up walking away without a deal. I'm hearing that the Cowboys are unsure about his availability to play this year, and so that's why they didn't make him an offer. That could end up prohibiting him from getting offers elsewhere. If people are concerned he's not going to be available, period, nobody's going to want to sign him and just have him
Hmm.
ride in the pine. So that's interesting. I saw Davis Mills is going to get the nod to start again here for the Texans. The Kyle Allen experiment, whatever you want to call it, it didn't give them the spark they were hoping for,
Hmm.
and that's okay. I mean, they're a struggling bottom feeder team, and it was good to shake it up, but it didn't get them any results. Next up, James, we've got Baker Mayfield. We've already kind of covered it. Released by Carolina, claimed by the Rams. We'll see. I think McVay's saying, you know, I don't know the quote, but I think they're trying to see if he can play uh, tomorrow.
Hmm.
But that's an awfully fast turnaround to try and know the playbook well enough to go in there and do that. And so who
Yeah, but
knows?
when McVay was asked how Baker fits into his scheme or his how the playbook fits Baker, McVay's answer was it's just about acquiring talent. It's like, seriously? I think they're just throwing the shit out there so fucking who are they playing tomorrow? I forget already. I know this is bad.
Is it the? It might be the Raiders. In fact, I could check real
Yeah,
quick.
it is the Raiders. That's right.
Okay.
So it's the Raiders. I wanted to say it was the Raiders, but I was like, wait, is this the Chargers? But anyways, it's just they're just trying to give the Raiders something to prepare for. There's no way in hell Baker's playing tomorrow.
Yeah. It would be. I don't know. And I forget what's his face that played for him last week. Put up some points, helped get it
Yeah.
moving. So you know,
Wolford.
yeah. So I mean, I would at least go him for one more week while you try to get Baker acclimated. But just my opinion. I'm not Sean McVay. So.
Yeah.
Uh, in other news, this is getting a little bit lower in the barrel here, but important. Robert Quinn had a knee scope. Looks like he's going to be going to IR. I don't know if that's short-term IR or if that's out for the season IR. Um, but I think they're hoping short-term with him. So, and I know that they've kind of like stacked the deck on that defensive line with some of the injuries that they've had, and so maybe part of that was anticipating this could have been a longer term thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then John Robinson, GM for the Tennessee Titans, he was fired this past week, and it was interesting. The statement from the owner, man, when I read it, I never would have thought that it was a statement written to explain that somebody was being terminated. It was like the most positive statement about how they were building the team and all these expectations, and they've come such a long way. But then it was like, but we think we need more and this and that. And it was like, wow, like I don't know, a very nice way, I guess, to fire somebody publicly like that. So, but hey, either way, he's out. We've kind of talked about it for a couple of years now. Their talent level, it's not really gotten better, man. If anything, especially this year, it got worse. And Vrabel just keeps coaching the shit out of them. And so, get the guys some help, man. Actually add some talent to that team, and let's see what these guys can do.
Yeah. I I think with Robinson being fired, I think this weekend it came to a head. Like he traded AJ Brown instead of giving him a contract, and AJ Brown lit the fucking up, lit them up on Sunday. And then you look at like other things. Like I've heard rumblings that like they weren't happy with giving him giving Tannehill the extension and just like kind of like how he made his move and certain moves he made where were like that doesn't make that's kind of I don't know about that. But I mean, it's odd timing because like, what is the GM going to be doing this late with a month left in the regular season? Deciding who to claim off waivers?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, the timing is a little funky. I think like you're saying, because of the AJ Brown trade in that game being this past week, that was like the statement was that, hey, we're drawing the line right here. Because, yeah, I mean, they're still, in the playoff picture. they I mean, it seems like you would at least finish this campaign and then make that kind of a move. But
Hmm.
that's all right. It's done now. And so then, James, the last thing I had here, man, was Pro Bowl. No longer a game, but it's Pro Bowl games, like little
Yeah.
fun shit. Apparently, it's going to be Peyton versus Eli as the coaches. And so I don't know. We'll see how they kind of reinvent that and whether or not it's worth watching. I used to really enjoy the Pro Bowl back in the day, but it's really been a long time since it's been a quality game. And so, it's like I remember, in Hawaii, they did like all the fun kind of games leading up to the Pro Bowl. I did enjoy watching those, and it just kind of, I don't know, it's like without the game itself, it loses something for me, but hopefully they'll find a way to get my attention here this year.
Yeah, I kind of lately mentioned the Pro Bowl. I kind of just tune it out
Yeah,
lately because
yeah,
it's like there's nothing.
it doesn't even matter anymore.
Yeah, there's ain't shit about it anymore. Who cares?
Yeah.
On to the next.
You had Speed Racer earlier, now you got what, like some bank robbers getting chased? What's going on
Yeah,
there, man?
probably,
You know?
probably.
I thought you lived in a nice neighborhood, James.
Oh no 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 no! Okay. So every year, during Christmas season, the fire and police department do a little Santa parade around the neighborhoods.
Okay.
So they drive around with the sirens blaring. It's like, like 10, 15 cars, Santa. They play music, and so they go up and down the streets for the kids, and that's what you're hearing outside.
Oh, okay. I don't know if I should be believing you right now, but I'll take you for your word.
I'm dead fucking serious. Like, it's- I didn't
Yeah,
believe it.
yeah.
I
Hey,
didn't believe it the first time
for
I saw it
anybody who's
either.
watching, James does not live in the hood. I was just joking. Okay, let's believe him.
How little do you know?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's been a while. I haven't been to your place now, so I don't know. But all right. So all right.
Yeah,
That's all I had news
when it
wise,
gets
man.
closer in front of my window, you'll hear the music and Santa on the
Oh, sure, sure. Yeah, you're going to be like whispering to Alexa, Alexa, play some Christmas music. Yeah, low volume. Yeah. All right. What I miss on the news, James?
All right. The only thing I think you missed, and I completely for so defensive end Henry Anderson for the Panthers. He's been out since like late October, and it never disclosed why he was out. He was put on the non-football illness list,
Okay.
and he's coming back, and it was revealed that on October 22nd, day before the Panthers Bucks game, he had a stroke,
Oh, shit. I
and
don't know if I've heard of a player having a stroke since like Teddy Bruschi, man.
yeah, so he had a stroke, and like I mean he went to few like I I don't know the number of specialists. He went to a lot of specialists trying to figure out the reason why he had the stroke, and nobody could figure it out. But he's he's coming back. It's maybe not necessarily this week, but he's going to be as soon as he's medically cleared. He's like, I have no problem going. Once I'm here, it is. I'm a football player. If I'm cleared to play, I want to be out there and play football because that's what I love to do.
Yeah.
I've been injured several times throughout my career, and it's always kind of overwhelming when you're injured and not with the team. So if the doctors say I'm good to go and I've got clearance, I want to be out there with my guys and playing with my brothers.
Warrior.
Yeah, so it was like, but
Well,
yeah,
Bruschi came back and played after he had that stroke.
yeah. So apparently his legs went numb,
Okay.
and that was a sign.
Oh, that's scary.
I like he called the team medical staff, and they're like, dude, go to the hospital.
Yeah. Well, hopefully he's okay. Hopefully whatever it was some crazy fluke and he's in better shape now.
Yeah, so I every test we ran came back negative. It was something where I just kind of got unlucky, I guess. It's like he's like he went through every test imaginable to determine the cause of the stroke, and nothing came back with a cause.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Yeah, that's not, I guess, not ideal that they couldn't identify it, but, if he's cleared, they must think that whatever it was is past and he's in better shape now.
Yeah. And then a little more to come probably next week when I'm able to get through the article. But apparently there's actual reasons from Andrew Luck on why he retired.
Okay, yeah, I'm
But
interested to hear that. Yeah.
stay tuned to next week.
Yeah, I thought I heard something was coming with that. So, yeah, that'll be good to hear. Hopefully we don't forget about it because we're gonna have a lot of time until the next show. But uh, unless of course we do it early again next week. But yeah, either way, that'll be a good one to hear about. All right, so you're good on the news?
Yeah.
All right, man. Let's move it over and let's do our week 14 power rankings, James. When you are ready, my man, give me your 1 through 5.
All right. So there's a little bit of a shakeup in my 1 through 5. Um, Almost every team changed positions one way or another. So I have Cincinnati at number one. I moved them up 3 spots. They beat Kansas City. This team's back. Like I've said all year that AFC is the best conference in football,
Oh
and
yeah.
now it's starting to reflect that in my power rankings. But Cincinnati moved to number one, up 3 spots. Kansas City, I only dropped them 1 spot, losing to Cincinnati, and the reason I only dropped them 1 spot is because when I sat down and looked at it, I thought Cincinnati was playing the best in football right now, so I couldn't really kill them that much for losing to the team that I was moving to number one.
Yeah, that's good logic.
Number three, I have the Eagles. Yeah, they beat Tennessee down, but with this little shake-up at the top and Cincinnati moving up, they ended up staying at the same spot at number three, and they're the only team that didn't move in my top five. Number four, I have Buffalo. They beat New England 24-10, but I moved them up 2 spots because this is kind of a function of more of a team dropped down out of my top five, or that I had above. Two teams that I had above Buffalo dropped out, so they moved up 2 spots. Otherwise, they probably wouldn't have moved off of just beating New England, even though it was New England. And then at number five, after the beatdown of Indy, I moved Dallas up 2 spots. But again, it's similar. Two teams I had ahead of them dropped down,
I
so
gotcha.
they moved up 2 spots.
Okay, I hear you, man. So yeah, for me, pretty different top five this week. I moved Philly back up to the top spot with KC losing. I felt compelled to put the Eagles 11-1 back at the top. It's just that record's commanding the respect with me. At two, I've got Buffalo. I moved them up, and I was looking at it, just what's transpired over the course of the season. And Buffalo did get Kansas City earlier in the year. They're both sitting at 9-3, and so I just opted to put Buffalo at two this week. After that, I've got Kansas City. I dropped them down two, even though they lost to Cincinnati. Um, they do still have the stronger record, and you know, I still believe they're the better team. It's just like this past Sunday, it didn't show, and there were some weird things like they were talking about. I didn't get to see the game. I just saw the highlights, but I read something about like a fluke Mahomes fumble or something like that, and I don't know. Maybe you know more than I do, but I didn't want to like totally go crazy with Cincinnati and like launch them up the board, but I like that you did it though. I mean, I think that they obviously deserve that kind of respect because they've been on a tear. I think they've won 6 out of their last 8. I mean,
Mm.
they're on fire right now.
So I don't remember a Mahomes fumble. I do remember that Kelsey, like they perfect defense. They stood him up and just stripped the ball right away from him.
Okay.
I remember that, and I think it was like Kelsey's like first fumble in like 5 years or something, some ridiculous like thing like that.
Yeah, I don't know that because I did see that highlight, but yeah, the Mahomes thing I didn't see a highlight. I just read about it. But either way, I thought, hey, I'm going to keep them here. At 4, I got Dallas. I kept them where they were at. It was a sweet beatdown, no doubt. It's just kind of like when I look at my board, I still just really like Philly, Buffalo, and Kansas City above Dallas. Them beating Indy, even though it was like dominating beating Indy, I just wasn't really ready to make that jump. I think that their offense minus this past week has not been as solid and consistent with Dak as I would have hoped. And maybe this is like they're starting to make that push that it is going to be electric like that. I just got to see more of it. And then at 5, I've got Cincinnati. So I moved them up 2 spots. I thought it was a solid upset win. I'm just tempering some expectations with Cincinnati. And I do like that their defense played really strong, like you mentioned with that strip off of Kelsey. And I think that's the big thing for them last year is that the defense really helped them make that run. I mean, the offense was like really good. We know that. But it took the defense playing really well too for them to get there. And I think their defense has been a little bit shaky, at least earlier in the year, but it's been coming on a lot as of late, which bodes well going into the playoffs again for them. So
Hmm.
that's my top 5, man. Back to you at 6.
So unless it didn't lead to a turnover, I glanced at. I'm looking at the box score right now, and the only turnover of the game was the Kelsey fumble.
Yeah, so I don't know. I don't know what I was picking up on, but I'm glad you checked that out because that does kind of change my opinion on it a little bit.
Yeah. So for me at 6, I have Minnesota. I moved them up 3 spots. Yeah, they beat the Jets. Yeah, it was close. They found a way to win, but also I kind of moved some teams around that were ahead of them, so they ended up falling or coming bumping up to 6. This is an interesting one. We'll get to it when we go to your picks. But I dropped San Francisco 5 spots this week, and
Yeah,
the reason I did is because Purdy looked good against Miami, but I have concerns with the team going forward. If they can get adequate quarterback play, yeah, they're a Super Bowl contender. But in my rankings in the NFC for teams that have a shot, yeah, they could still have a shot, but I think Minnesota has a better shot, Dallas has a better shot, Philadelphia has a better shot. So I couldn't rate San Francisco ahead of them based on that. So San Francisco ends up at 7.
sure.
At 8, I have Baltimore. They didn't move. They beat Denver, yeah, but I have concerns with Huntley going forward, and how long Lamar's going to be out, and so for the time being, I wanted to take a pause and not really drop them and just see what happens the coming weeks. At number 9, I have Miami. I dropped them 4 spots, and really I could have dropped Miami a lot more than 4 spots, but a lot of teams after this lost. Basically everybody that I had before this won, but a lot of the teams I have right after Miami lost, including Tennessee, who didn't drop. So they lost to Philly. Eh, I have Philly number 3. I had Philly number 3 last week. I didn't feel comfortable dropping Tennessee, even though they really didn't show up for the game. It's just, and also a lot of teams in this range lost, so Tennessee ended up staying at 10.
Yeah, no, I hear you, man. And, when we get to that part of my board, it started to get a little bit funky, but you got to find a way to make it make sense. So for me at 6, I got Baltimore. I kept them where they were at. You covered it pretty well with the Lamar injury. It's hard to say where they're going to go. They did get the win, but it was like barely over Denver. And so I definitely wasn't going to bump them for that. But and they may in the future be going down. It just depends on where they go from here at quarterback. At 7, I got San Francisco. I moved them up 2 spots, and this was one where I wanted to give them the benefit of getting the win. I wanted to give them the benefit of the defense just playing lights out. I mean, their defense looks like, classic 49ers top defense in the league, and that can carry them a long way. Um, Purdy, yeah, looked good in his limited sample size. But this is one where, I'm bumping them obviously on a strange time with their quarterback going down. It's more about, hey, let's see what the guy's got. I'm giving them the bump for the win. And if the wheels fall off with Purdy next week, well, then I know and I can start dropping them accordingly.
And this is
Uh,
an interesting one because you gave them a bump and I dropped them and we ended up at the same spot.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, and hey, I mean, I had talked going up into this week that maybe I wasn't high enough on San Francisco since they got McCaffrey, but um, you know, it's all good. Hey, we're in alignment now. And then at 8, I've got the Dolphins. I dropped them 3. Wish they would have played better, but they're still having a solid year, so it's okay. Still sitting in the top 10. At 9, I've got Minnesota. I moved them up 1. I thought it was a nice win, and I've got a lot of respect for what the Jets have been doing this year. The quarterback thing's a little dicey there, but still they're having a good year, and so I gave Minnesota the bump. Just can't believe they're sitting at 10-2 right now, man. It's blowing my mind. And then at 10, I've got Tennessee. I dropped them 2 spots. I didn't want to dog them too much for losing to Philly, but I had to show Minnesota some love. And just the way that this section got shifted around, they ended up going down 2 on me. So back to you at 11, man.
So at 11, I have the Chargers, and yeah, they lost to the Raiders, but this is kind of a function of where my board was at this point, where like I couldn't move a lot of these teams. I couldn't move them up too high. And it's just like they ended up staying the same at 11. New England, the same. It's the same thing. Plus, I wasn't going to really kill them for losing to Buffalo. It's kind of expected this year. 13, the Jets, they stayed the same as well. There's a close, hard-fought loss to Minnesota. Play here, play there goes different way. Um, they they could win that game. This team is completely different with Mike White over Wilson, and it shows the atmosphere is different. The players, it wasn't Kadarius Toney's or no Garrett Wilson said he would basically he would do anything for Mike White, where he wasn't saying didn't he want to trade when Wilson was quarterback. Um, 14, I have Cleveland. I didn't want to give them too much of a bump because yeah, they only beat Houston. Um, but I also gave them a bump because I realized something which is gonna happen. It's more of in my 16, 17 range that this will make a little bit of sense.
Sure.
At number 15, I'm sorry, 15, 16 range. At number 15, I have Seattle. I gave them a 2-spot bump, and they only beat the Rams, but where I had teams rated, this made more sense to me.
Okay, I got you. All right, so yeah, for me at 11, I've got Washington. It was a strange one where, James, I've been telling you, it just seems like the board keeps falling in their favor. And this was another weird one. They got a tie, but I had everybody in this range on my board lose. And so
Mm-hmm.
even though they tied, I floated them up 1 spot. And then at 12, I've got the Giants, and it was basically the same kind of thing. But I ended up moving them up 2 because I dropped the Chargers by 3. And, you know, them tying Washington, I thought, okay, fine, back to back, that kind of makes sense, at least in my head. I do feel like both those teams are up there pretty high, but, you can make the argument, especially when you look at what they've done more recently. There's some teams here that get suspect in this range. At 13 with the Jets, hey, they played well against Minnesota, so I didn't drop them. But, even with Mike White, I think they still got to find a more reliable, higher ceiling quarterback. I don't think he's the answer long term, but maybe he
Mm-hmm.
gets them through this year. At 14 with the Chargers, as I mentioned, the 3-spot drop. I did want to go further than 3, to be honest, because I'm really starting to get aggravated with the Chargers. But I just don't feel good about many of the teams from here. And so it kind of kept them maybe a little bit higher than I wanted. And at 15, this is, I'm sure you can start to understand why I feel that way about the Chargers. At 15, I got the Buccaneers. And so they barely beat New Orleans. It was really a garbage game. We covered it, but they got the win, and so I kept them where they were at. Um, I don't know. Maybe I need to do a forced adjustment with some of this, but that's something maybe I'll put more thought into next week. So back to you at 16, man.
All right. So I'm going to have to go back to 14 to explain 16. So last week I had the Giants at 14, and I had Cleveland at 15. And Cleveland won, Giants tied, so okay, naturally Cleveland's going to get a bump. So then that would put the Giants at 15. Well, then Seattle won, so naturally they're going to get a bump over Washington, who just tied. So then I would have the Giants at 15 and Seattle at 16. But Seattle beat the Giants, and they beat them pretty handily, from what I recall. So I moved the Giants down 2 spots, which is why Seattle got a two-spot jump to 15, and the Giants went down 2 spots to 16. Washington went down 1 spot based on the tie to the Giants versus the win for Seattle. This one is an interesting one. It's just kind of how the board worked out around here. There were a bunch of teams that lost in this range, and which ended up Pittsburgh getting a 4-spot bump this week because just for beating Atlanta. Plus, when I looked at it, like at a certain point, it was, Atlanta and Pittsburgh were very close, and naturally Pittsburgh, who just beat Atlanta, should be ahead of Atlanta.
Yeah.
19, I have New Orleans. Look, New Orleans wins the game on Monday night. New Orleans is the favorite to win that division. Going into their bye, everybody's sitting on 5 wins. New Orleans is the favorite to win that division. Now, not so much. 20, I have Atlanta. Both New Orleans and Atlanta dropped 1 spot from their losses. Atlanta's kind of a function of Pittsburgh winning over Atlanta, but also I couldn't put Atlanta ahead of New Orleans because I think New Orleans is better. As dysfunctional as they are, I think New Orleans would beat Atlanta 9 times out of 10.
Yeah, I can't trust them, but it's just me. I've dogged them, for how much talent they have and how little winning they've done. I've just like slaughtered them in my rankings. But all right, so yeah, for me at 16, James, I've got Seattle. They barely beat the Rams, and so I didn't want to bump them. I kept them where they were at. At 17, I've got the Lions, starting to drink the Kool-Aid a little bit. That they had started previously, but I moved them up 4 spots, and I liked the way that they crushed the Jags. For me, the big thing was that I felt it was important to move them ahead of Green Bay since they got that win earlier in the year. And so at 18, I've got Green Bay. Decent win over Chicago, but it's Chicago, and they haven't really put up a lot of wins this year, so I didn't bump Green Bay. I just kept them where they were at. At 19, I've got Cleveland. I think the rust was definitely there for Deshaun Watson. You know, they should get better from there. And I had a note in here. I put Lamar. Obviously, I had a brain fart there. And then at 20, James, I've got the Patriots. I dropped them down 1 spot. They lost to one of my top teams, so I didn't want to kill them. But their lack of offense, as you know, is a concern to me. That seems to be something that just kind of keeps creeping in more games than not. And so, which is weird because Belichick, totally supported what they're doing on offense, just like today or yesterday. And so that blows my mind. But hey, that's okay. It's Belichick. I don't want to question him too much. I think that that's what's holding that team back this year.
I'm sorry, I just had to look up something. Okay.
Yeah, that's cool.
All right. 21, I have the Lions. I moved them up 3 spots. And do you realize 2 things? 1, they're still alive for the division. 2, they're 2 games out of a playoff spot.
What are you trying to say?
All I'm saying.
Okay.
22, I have Jacksonville. Dropped Jacksonville two spots. Wanted to kill them a little bit more, but it's just kind of how it worked out here with Carolina being on the bye, which I have at 23. They stayed the same. They didn't play. Tampa Bay, I really, really struggled with 24, 25, and 26 area because I don't think Tampa Bay is the 24th best team in the NFL right now, even though right now currently they are the 4th seed in the NFC.
Mm-hmm.
But with the win and with how some other things played out and some disappointments I'm seeing, I reluctantly gave Tampa Bay a 1-spot bump to 24. Vegas got a 1-spot bump to 25. As reluctant as I am, because I'm trying to figure out which team this Raiders team is.
Yeah.
Is it the team of the last 3 weeks, or is it the team that lost to Jeff Saturday and the Colts?
It's both.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So for me, James, at 21, I've got Pittsburgh. I moved them up 2 spots. Really like what I'm starting to see out of these guys. You know, a part of me is tempted to say, holy shit, they might actually get to 500. You know, not something I was expecting with the way they started the year, but it looks like things are definitely back on track for them. 22, I've got the Cardinals. They didn't play. I didn't move them. 23, the Falcons. This was the big drop on my board this week. I moved them down 6 spots. You know, basically with them being on different trajectories than Pittsburgh and Pittsburgh getting the win, I felt it was really important to make this kind of a big swing on the board just to kind of get it right in my head here. 24, I've got the Raiders. I moved them up 4 spots. Nice healthy bump for them. They're somehow sitting at 5 wins, which, you know, if you would have asked me that without me looking at their record, I would not have thought that because it just seems like every week we talk shit about them. But they've now like sneakily gotten some wins on their hands. 25, I've got the Bears. I dropped them down 1 spot. We talked about it a week or 2 ago. They're way too reliant on Justin Fields. And, you know, he did just get hurt a couple weeks ago. Probably still bugging him a little bit. And it's just the bottom line, man. They got to get some team around him. And this will just be kind of how their season goes. You know, he can't carry them every week.
Mm-hmm.
Back to you at 26, man.
All right, so 26, I have Houston. I dropped them down 5 spots. I think this Houston's, they're a little bit dysfunctional right now. They can't figure out who's playing quarterback. There's a lot of issues there. But also though, with like the rest of the teams on my board losing basically, besides 2, one was on a bye and one got a win. Somehow I couldn't drop Houston much more than this. Indy, even though they were destroyed by Dallas, it's like right here on my board, there couldn't really be much movement because they all had the same result. Yeah. Same with Chicago. Chicago lost, but I mean, it's the same. Arizona was on a bye, so I didn't move them. Denver, I considered putting lower than 30, but I couldn't pull the trigger just yet on one of my dumpster fire teams not being a dumpster fire team. So I left Denver at 30. I mean, it was a hard fought game. They only scored 9 points. Their defense did pretty well against Lamar before Lamar got hurt, and then shit, you can't score more than 10 points or more than 9 points in a game. You don't deserve to win anyways. But I just couldn't pull the trigger and put them lower.
Yeah, I gotcha. All right, yeah, so for me, 26, I got Carolina. They didn't play, so I didn't move them. 27, I got Jacksonville. I dropped them down 2. You know, I don't know. We kind of covered that game pretty well, I think. 28, I got the Saints. I moved them down 1 spot. Just garbage, you know, garbage. We keep saying that. They can't get much going on offense either. You know, it's like go back to the Taysom Hill week where he scored 4 touchdowns. Like, come on, we should be seeing more of that because nothing else is working for these guys. At 29, I've got the Colts. Tempted to drop them because of how bad a loss it was, but everybody from here is like really, really, really bad and lost, and so it got gridlocked on the way down. And then at 30, the Rams. They played better than I expected, but they still lost, so they stayed put at 30. Dumpster fire, James. Dumpster
Dumpster
fire.
fire. My dumpster fire teams flipped this week. Green Bay won, so they got the nod at 31. That's a solid ranking for Green Bay. That team's just pathetic. They beat Chicago big fucking whoop. 32, I have the Rams. Look, any team that is claiming Baker Mayfield off waivers is a desperate team, and I really want this team to continue losing. And if they do, and we can get a couple wins here or there out of a couple teams, let me take a look and see who exactly we need to win, and we could get the number 1 overall pick this year.
Yeah,
Do you realize
sweet.
that? Do you realize that we have a shot at the number 1 overall pick this year?
Yeah, and I mean, and it
We
does
need
piss
the
me
Bears
off that
to
they're.
win, and we need Houston to win 2 more games, and basically the Rams aren't going to win another game this season. So if that happens, we might get the number 1 overall pick.
All right, I'll save my comments for later, but yeah, it bothers me. All right, my dumpster fire, man, same as last week. Denver at 31, Houston at 32. Denver still no offense, and Houston same old, same old. So it is what it is. Don't need to keep beating that dead horse.
All right,
Okay.
what's your rant really quick before we move on to the picks?
Well, I got. I'm going to be talking about the Rams in question of the week, so
Okay, we'll
I'll
move on to
save it
picks.
for that. But if you
Okay.
got something, you can hit it now.
No. We can save it for question of the week. I didn't realize that it was directly correlated.
I know. I should have given you the heads up. All right, man. So let's move over. Let's do our game picks for week 14. And before we jump in, we'll do just a quick recap season to date and how we did this past week. So, James, you're sitting at 109 wins, which is good for 56%. I'm sitting at 122 wins, which is good for 63%. You had 10 wins this past week, pretty good. I had 12, which is obviously a little bit better. Man, I'm moving back up into that good 60-ish% range, and you're not far behind, man. We're both doing a lot better than we did the first month of the season, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But we're running out of time to get it back where we want it, and so we got to start nailing these bad boys, man.
Yeah, we gotta. I gotta start making some moves.
All right, well, hey, man, you want to take the ball and run with it here?
All right. So first up, we have the Thursday night game. Since we're doing this on Wednesday, the Raiders at the Rams. These are 2 teams that are on completely different trajectories. You have the Rams, who are, I mean, shit. The Rams are so bad. They're talking about Baker, who they just got maybe today into the building, starting or playing for them this week. The Raiders, they've won 2 straight, 3 straight. I think the Raiders keep it moving. My model has it as the Raiders clearly winning by a touchdown.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just pulling mine up real quick. So I've got the Raiders winning. I just want to see by how much. Not as much as I would hope for the Rams not really having a quarterback. My model's got the Raiders winning by 4.5. Part of that's probably just because I'm so suspect about the Raiders, but it actually, it's kind of crazy, man. The heat map is pretty heavily in the favor of the Raiders. The Rams still get a little bit of action on the defense, like in the secondary, but other than that, man, there's a lot of favor here for the Raiders. It's just they're very inconsistent this year, and so I like the recent momentum, like you pointed out, and I'm going with Vegas here, man.
One second.
Sure.
I want to add something to my to a note I have for a later game. All right, so next up we have the New York Jets at the Buffalo Bills. This honestly coming in to this week, and I want to see what it's at really, really quick. The spread is way different than I thought it would be. Like the line on it is Buffalo -9.5. I would think my first instinct was it should be about a touchdown, and then I saw the spread at 9.5, and I was like, if I was going against the spread on this one, I probably would not pick how I'm going on how I am on this one. I think the Jets aren't getting enough credit in Vegas. My model has exactly, this is weird. It exactly came out with the line I thought it should be, with Buffalo winning 23-16 in this game, and that's who without running into my model, that's about what I thought it was. So I don't know if I'm built some like mental bias into my model somehow or something, but I'm with Buffalo.
I gotcha. Yeah, I'm taking Buffalo here too, even though the Jets got them earlier in the year. Um, I still think Buffalo is one of the best teams in football. My model's got them at 10.5, so I like hearing you're saying Vegas has got it at 9.5. But I do think, hey, we know the Jets have been overperforming this year, so the real outcome probably a little bit tighter. But because my model is still that high, I'm definitely sticking with Buffalo in this one.
I'm trying to look up a stat for. That might change something.
Okay.
That might be why. Okay, next up we got Cleveland Browns at the Cincinnati Bengals. And I've been trying to figure out why my model picked this. My model has Cleveland winning this game 24-21.
Okay.
And what I sent you, I overrode my model because I couldn't understand it. But then it occurred to me, Joe Burrow has 4 starts against Cleveland. Do you know how many of those times he's beaten Cleveland?
All 4.
No, 0.
Oh man. All right. So are you flipping to Cleveland? Is that what you're telling me,
So
Gene?
yeah, I'm gonna. This was actually the only pick I overrode my model on this week, and I'm gonna flip it back and go with my model.
Okay.
And go with the Cleveland Browns in this one. It's just, yeah, I think that's the best bet.
Yeah. No. I mean, hey, I don't blame you, man. I thought it was crazy. My model has Cleveland by 1.5, and I decided to override the model. I'm taking Cincinnati, and this is where it's weird is that when I look at my heat map, it's very heavily in favor of Cincinnati, but somehow Cleveland's coming out with a 1.5 win, and so I don't know. I just and I discounted Watson because he's still shaking off rust, and so I must be missing something. Maybe my model wouldn't have that narrative part though about Burrow historically not winning. So I don't know. I'll have to keep digging. But either way, I'm gonna stick with my gut, and I'm going Cincinnati here.
All right, so next up we have the Houston Texans at the Dallas Cowboys. And this is an interesting gambling game. Dallas on the money line is minus 1,563.
Okay.
For those those of you out there that don't know what that means. It means to win $100 by picking Dallas to win, you have to wager $1,563.
Just not a smart bet to be making.
No. On the flip side, Houston is plus 977. So if you bet $100 on Houston, you win nearly 1,000.
Still not a smart bet to be
Not a
making.
smart bet. But anyways, also Dallas is favored by 17 points. All the other games are single-digit lines except for this game.
Okay.
It tells you how lopsided this game is going to be.
Yeah.
Um, I have Dallas winning by 23.
Beat down.
And my model, how my model is designed, go, it's to go be closer, be more conservative, and it still has Dallas winning by 23. So that means it's probably going to be like 50.
Uh,
Um,
okay.
I'm firmly on Dallas. Not going to move off Dallas unless like half the team is randomly out, and I still might pick Dallas if it was all backup start playing.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on Dallas. So my model's got it at 13 and a half. So I'm lagging Vegas, but that's okay. Um, I could see Dallas, after watching what they did to Indy, definitely blow them out by a lot more. The heat map is entirely in Dallas's favor, except that I give a little bit of an edge in the running game to Damian Pierce. I really like him, but I think, it's like it's by like 0.05, and so we're
Mm-hmm.
talking pretty darn close. Yeah, and then even with coaching, normally with Dallas, like sometimes the head coach for the other team ends up being a little higher rated the way I got the models going here, but I've got Lovie Smith a little bit below McCarthy, and so um, yeah, I'm with you, man. Dallas all the way here.
All right. Next up, we have the Minnesota Vikings at the Detroit Lions. I had to double check, triple check, quadruple check, make sure there wasn't something fucked up in my model when it spit out this game.
Sure.
My model has the Lions winning 33-31.
Okay.
And one thing I've realized over the past few weeks is to trust my model when it comes with the Lions. It's similar to with the Cowboys earlier in the season where I was overriding it because I couldn't make sense of it. Lately, like when Thanksgiving Day is the perfect example. My model basically spit out the exact final score of the game. It was the final spread. It was a little bit closer in last week, but it's been fairly consistent and fairly right on with the Lions. So I'm going to stick with my model and pick the Lions in this game.
Um, yeah. Okay. No, I was just checking something because I do have a scenario where the Lions get the edge in my model, but I don't think I can trust it. I've got Minnesota winning by 2, and it's tight. I think, man, for Detroit to win this game, I think it helps that it's in Detroit.
Mm-hmm.
I think that they need to continue that momentum from last week, and it has to be both sides of the ball, offense and defense, because Minnesota's offense, we know, can light it up. Detroit's offense, on the other hand, more times than not, we've been good, but when we've been bad, we have been really bad. And we can't risk being bad against a team that's got such an electric offense. And so I think you know, man, if they go in fired up, and they should, they got a chance. And I hope they win. But for the sake of the picks, man, I'm going with the model and I'm taking Minnesota.
All right. Next up, we have the Eagles at the Giants. This one, I was surprised my model was um, as close as it was. I mean, and that's a touchdown. The Philadelphia is just putting the beat down on everybody, and I don't see that really ending. I'm gonna go with the Eagles on this one, probably with a bigger spread than the touchdown that my model has it at.
Sure. Yeah, I'm taking Philly. My model's got it by 9. I think really the only thing that's the wild card in this game, and it's kind of been the wild card for most of the year for the Giants, is which version of Saquon Barkley are we going to get? They've had games where he's sputtered out and not done much, and that's where the team has struggled. But he's had a lot of games where he's been like the Saquon of old, and that's kind of helped propel them to getting, the whatever 7 wins that they're at right now at this point in the year. Philly, superior team. The heat map is almost entirely in their favor. I think, they win either way. It's just whether or not the Giants can keep it close or let them run away with it. So I'm with you. I'm going Philly, man.
All right, next up we have the Baltimore Ravens at the Pittsburgh Steelers. Um, my model has this as a 1 point win. I'm with Pittsburgh winning by 1. I have more faith in Pittsburgh right now than I do in Huntley. I think Pittsburgh or Baltimore without Jackson is a completely different team, and that's evident by the fact that they barely beat who did they play this last week? They
Denver.
barely beat Denver, and it's just. But I mean, they scored more with Huntley than they did with Lamar, but I can't trust Huntley right now, so I'm going to stick with my model, even though it's a 1 point spread, and go with Pittsburgh.
I got you. Yeah, I mean, we're pretty aligned on this one. I've got Pittsburgh at 2 points. Um, you know, Lamar being out definitely swings it in my model to being in favor of Pittsburgh. I do like as I was talking about earlier, the momentum that Pittsburgh has. Pickett has been getting better every week. Pickens has been looking really good. They got TJ Watt back a couple weeks ago. That defense is getting better. And, we know that they can run the ball when things kind of play into their favor. And so, um, you know, yeah, I agree. Should be a close one, but I'm going to give the edge to Pittsburgh as well here, man.
Next, we have Jacksonville Jaguars at the Tennessee Titans. I really was hoping my model was closer on this one because my gut tells me that Jacksonville's going to win the game.
Okay.
My gut tells me that. But my model came up with Tennessee winning by 15.
Oh shit. Yeah, that's a big that's a big spread, man.
Tennessee just looks a little dysfunctional right now to me. Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe they come up pissed off because of how bad they were beaten against Philadelphia. But in the same token, you have Jacksonville coming off a similar style loss, a worse loss
Yeah.
to the Lions. I'm going to stick with my model at Tennessee because it's such a wide margin my model's coming up with. If it was closer, if it was like half that, if it was 7 or 8 points, I might override my model. But because it's so wide, I'm going to stick with it.
Yeah, and I'm just trying to remember if these guys already played this year or not.
I don't think they have. I think this is the first meeting.
Okay. And so yeah, I mean my model's got Tennessee by 5.5. I'm just taking a look here just to see. No, they've not.
Yeah, because they played this week and then they play week 18.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, I mean it's tough. Yeah, I think that it helps that it's going to be in Tennessee. But yeah, I think both these teams they got something they got to prove after losing last week. I think just Tennessee is that much further ahead. They're an established team, even though they have some weaknesses on the roster. Stronger, more established coach. Even though Peterson, established coach, just not so much with Jacksonville, more
Mhm.
so in the league in general. But Yeah, I'm going Tennessee, man.
All right. Next up, we're picking the Sunday night matchup early because this game was flexed to Sunday, and when we did put together our spreadsheet, it was at 4:05. Now it's Sunday night, but Miami at the Los Angeles Chargers.
Cool, cool.
So I think San Francisco exposed some things about Miami this past week.
Okay.
Um, I think if Brock Purdy can light up Miami like he did, imagine what Justin Herbert can do to Miami.
That's a good point.
My model came up with a 31-29 score in favor of the Chargers. I'm sticking with that. I think it's going to be a good game, and it will be a close game. I don't see it being much farther apart than what my model came up with.
Okay.
But I'm firmly on the Chargers in this game.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting point you made because the Dolphins secondary, man, they've taken a beating this year. They've had a lot of injuries they've been dealing with there, but my model is giving the edge to Miami by a half a point, real tight, maybe the tightest one that I've gone through tonight. But um, the heat map is a little bit more favorable for Miami, and so I'm gonna stick with that, man. It's a close one. Just got to go with the model.
All right, next up we have the Carolina Panthers at the Seattle Seahawks. Interestingly enough, my model picked this one as a close one as well.
Okay.
Um, I think Carolina is kind of an up and coming team. I've seen articles about how like Carolina, what was it? And basically, can they replicate like their dream season? I'm trying to remember what year they were citing, but
With like you're talking about going way back, like the Jake Delhomme days, Steve Smith.
yeah, like can they replicate their 2014 playoff run?
Oh yeah, no, that's Cam Newton era. I'm thinking way further back.
Yeah,
Oh man, yeah, I mean they're just such a different team. Cam Newton was such a unique. They had to run a very specific kind of offense, and I don't know, but yeah. Either way, go ahead.
so, but the interesting point about this article, and I'm going to read you the first two paragraphs. In 2014, the Carolina Panthers came off their bye week, had 5 games left in the season. Every team in the NFC South had a losing record. Um, they lost 31-13 um, to Minnesota. Blah blah blah. Six losses in a row dropped them to 3-8-1. They won their last 4 games and won the NFC South.
Yeah, that's wild.
Not only that, at 7-8-1, they hosted a playoff game and beat the Arizona Cardinals. Okay. So first I'm going to say they were 3-8-1. Let's call it 4-8-1 because they lost to Minnesota with 4 games left. They're 4-8 right now.
Okay, okay.
I mean, there's a lot of similarities to that. Can it happen? Possibly. Will it happen? No. Are they going to beat Seattle? No. I had nothing else to say about this game, so I went on that little tangent.
Oh man, you took me on that journey for like basically nothing here, James. But that's okay. Data's data, whether you like it or not. And I do like the way they've been running the ball and playing strong defense. I like that formula in general. But yeah, I think that it's not happening for them this year. They need more time to build and get everything else
Hmm.
established. Maybe get an upgrade at quarterback. But it's all good, man. I think Seattle, they have been a pleasant surprise this year with how effective their rookies have been. We've talked a lot about the great draft class. And I'm my model. Despite all that, it's got it as a 2 point game in Seattle's favor, and it's in Seattle, and so it could be close, but I like the narrative more with Seattle, and I definitely like my heat map more with Seattle, so I'm going there, man.
Yeah, my model has Seattle winning by 2 also.
Okay, yeah, so we're pretty well aligned on that one, man.
Yeah. So next up we have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the San Francisco 49ers. Honestly, San Francisco only has to score 10 points in this game to win.
Do, do you think Brady's going to come in guns blazing if he even has any guns left to blaze? Because wasn't Tampa Bay the team that he wanted to go? I mean, wasn't San Francisco the team he wanted to go to, but they stuck with Jimmy G?
It's that's rumored. It's rumored that it's Tannehill.
Okay, all
But
right.
it is actually the actual true team is the Miami Dolphins
Oh, all right, all right.
with Fitzy, because
Oh, well, that would make
remember
sense.
the whole tampering thing with Brady. They were trying to get him to come,
Yep,
even when he
yep.
was like in his and then they ended up not extending an offer to him. Look, San Francisco is playing their future tomorrow because the starting quarterback for the 49ers next year is going to be Tom Brady. Um, San Francisco, if New Orleans can hold Tampa Bay to 17 points, what is New Orleans going
Shut
to do to, or what is San Francisco going to do to Tampa Bay? Shut them out?
shut him out. Shut him out.
Like what do they have? What does San Francisco have to do to win the game? Kick a field goal? I'm firmly on San Francisco. My model actually has it at 17-14, which is a very similar score that we've seen recently, with very similar close score that we've seen recently with Tampa Bay. Um, I just don't see how I can't find a way for Tampa Bay to win this game.
Yeah, I mean, I think the quarterback thing, it's like throwing a little bit of a wrench in my model. And I think part of it is that I gotta adjust Brady down more than I already have. But it has it as a 5 point spread in San Francisco's favor in my model. Even with Purdy, I think they're winning by a lot more than that. I
Hmm.
think their defense is that freaking good, and Tampa Bay has just been like that inconsistent at best. I don't even really know how to say it, just dysfunctional, whatever. So I think San Fran, they're going to take this one.
Next up, we have the Chiefs at the Denver Broncos, and
Divisional game.
about all you can say about this game is the Denver Broncos offense is bad enough for NBC to say no, we don't want to play a Patrick Mahomes game.
Oh, man. Yeah, it's pretty bad. It's pretty
Kansas
bad.
City wins this game. 15, 62, 130 to nothing.
Yeah, yeah.
The bigger question in this game is, does Denver score a touchdown?
That's a good question. That's a good question. I'm going to say yes because Kansas City's going to get so far ahead that they've got like third, fourth stringers in at the end of the game, and Denver just like walks into one somehow.
Hmm.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know what to say, man. I mean, Kansas City, it's a no-brainer. My model has Kansas City by winning by 15, which is probably one of the bigger spreads I've had all year in the model, and so I can't go against that, man.
All right. Last game this week, before we get to next Thursday's action, we have the New England Patriots at the Arizona Cardinals. And before I started talking about this game, I wanted to point something out,
Point it
and
out.
it's almost true. If the playoff started today, 3 of the 4 teams in the AFC East would be in the playoffs.
Really?
Yeah. The team that wouldn't make the playoffs is the Patriots at 6-6.
Whew. That's pretty wild, man.
And then the other division that has a playoff team is Miami. And also, the Patriots have the tiebreaker over the Chargers currently.
Okay.
Best record in conference games. Look, I'm buying into this Patriots team being a playoff team for some reason. I'm also selling Kyler Murray and the Arizona Cardinals, which was another team that was rumored to have interest in putting a waiver claim in for Baker,
Okay.
which is wild.
Yeah, that one's weird. Yeah.
My model has New England winning by 1 point. I think it's obviously going to be wider than that. I just have no faith in Arizona. I thought Arizona was going to be a much better team than they are this year. I mean, sitting at 4-8. I mean, fuck, they're worse than the Lions. That's all I have to say.
You don't have to say it that way, James. I mean, we're supposed to be positive about the
Okay,
Lions right now.
they're worse than the Lions, and the Patriots shut out the Lions like 40-0 or
Yeah, well,
29.
that was earlier in the year where we kind of hit rock bottom, and I feel like we've progressed as a team since then. But I hear what you're saying. James, I'm going Arizona here. I don't really like either of these teams. I've got Arizona winning by a half a point. Heat map, they're like zigzagging like this. And so I can
Mhm.
see this game going either way. I just don't trust New England to score consistently on offense. Not that Arizona's that much better, but I think offensively they are that much better. And so, they get my edge by like the hair of my chinny chin chin.
Okay. Then the last game we get to pick tonight is a nice divisional matchup: the San Francisco 49ers at the Seattle Seahawks.
Yes.
So this is going to be subject to change. I need to see a little bit more, get a little bit more data on the 49ers with Purdy at quarterback
Yeah.
and see what they're going to do. First round on it without much information on Mr. Irrelevant. Because you realize he was the very last pick in the draft this past year.
Heck yeah.
Without having much more data on him, I can't figure out if the reason why he lit up Miami is more of a Miami problem, or if he has more talent there than he's given credit for with being the last pick in the draft. I think Geno Smith is playing he's like 3rd or 4th rated quarterback in the league currently.
Yeah. But how's that going to be against arguably the top defense?
Right, exactly. And so I just need a little bit more data to fully compute how this game's going to go. Right now, I think it's going to be Seattle,
Sure.
but
I mean, it's in Seattle, so that's in your favor there.
it'll more than likely change if I see some good things this weekend.
I gotcha. Yeah, so I'm going San Francisco, and it's pretty early, like you're saying. My early model, it has San Fran winning by 4.5. And, um, a lot of adjustments to be made between now and then. But it just, the model is like so heavy on San Francisco's defense just being that dominant. And so it doesn't matter that it's on the road, they slow them down. And then, just kind of historically, Shanahan's been able to make things work with, you know, most quarterbacks and definitely most running backs. And so, it's all about scoring points. So I think San Francisco for now, for here, and if something changes, I'll keep you posted, man.
Uh, well, there goes the picks for the week. It's going to be on to question of the week, unless you had anything you wanted to add on to your picks.
I do not.
All right,
But
so what's your question of the week?
oh well, thank you for asking, James. And I kind of like alluded to it a little bit earlier with Baker Mayfield getting cut and then picked up by the Rams. Do you think that's going to jack up the Lions draft pick that we're getting from the Rams? And I don't have like some scientific or like data backed answer for any of this. All I can say is I seriously hope it doesn't. Like we talked about earlier, I don't know that he's really going to be a factor this week. I think some of that's just McVay blowing smoke. And so if you look past this week, that gives us 4 games left. I'm like, shit, man, if he somehow got them to win 2 of those 4, that would totally jack shit up for us, man. well, hey,
Sorry,
well,
two.
hey, I don't want him to. I'm just saying that hypothetically, people look at, oh, you want your backup quarterback to split the games. And so I'm just going off of a very rough, fast and loose, whatever. I don't think it ever really works out that way, but, you know, just make me feel better, James. How about that? I think they're desperate to get wins because they know this is about the biggest embarrassment you can get coming off a Super Bowl win. And so that's the only reason they made the move for Mayfield, because why not just say fuck it, who cares? It's a wasted year.
I think you're missing something about why they signed or claimed Baker Mayfield off
Well, then
waivers.
tell me, dude.
And I have to verify something before I tell you this. I have to check the injury report.
Okay.
But if the injury report is accurate, it'll make a lot more sense.
Okay.
Where where's the injury? Come on. It's just
Take your
I
time, dude. Take your
something
time.
something caught my eye, and I want to. It is. What if I told you that Wolford has a neck injury?
Then they should just run the Wildcat with a running back because they're going to get too many quarterbacks killed this year.
John Wolford has a neck injury and is questionable for tomorrow night's game.
Wow. Yeah, no, I didn't know that. So, okay. Yeah.
I
So
didn't
they
know that either. So it
they
makes when you when you go when you have that information, it makes more sense why they claimed Baker off of waivers, because outside of Wolford, they have Perkins. Wolford's questionable. Stafford's on IR. So if Wolford can't go, they only have one quarterback on the roster.
I gotcha. Yeah, so they're like just force feeding Riddle down Baker's throat, making him study 24/7 just in case they need him.
Yeah, exactly. Because yeah, their outlook's not very good with Baker, Perkins. Wolford might be able to do some things, but if for some reason Wolford can't go and Perkins gets hurt, I mean they're really fucked.
So let's just look, man. They've got the Raiders, then they're at Green Bay, home against Denver, and then they're at Los Angeles Chargers, at Los Angeles Chargers against the Chargers. You know what I mean? And
Mhm.
then they're at Seattle. So what do you think? Do you think they can get a win out of those, or you're thinking no, they lose out from here?
I'm gonna
Maybe
rewind.
maybe a win against Denver.
I think beating Denver would be the only possible shot. I'm surprised that the Chargers game hasn't been flexed out of the Monday night
Okay.
window so far. But like I said earlier, we have the Lions, who have, we've said multiple times, have the Rams' #1 pick. I honestly think it's possible that that pick could be the first pick in the draft. I don't foresee the Rams winning a game. Like I said, maybe Denver. I see Houston possibly winning a game or two more.
Well, yeah,
I
let's look at that. Let's see who Houston's got left. They've got at Dallas this week, at home against Kansas City, at Tennessee, at home against Jacksonville, and then at Indy. And so maybe week 17 and 18 they could squeak something out. Oh
so
man.
so Houston's only win of the season is against Jacksonville,
Yep. And it was at Jacksonville too.
and that was at Jacksonville. Houston's other non-loss of the season was against Indianapolis. I think they could win those last two games, and
So then they're at 3 with the tie.
they're at 3.5.
Yeah.
So that's better record than the
If the
Rams.
Rams, well, the Rams got to lose out though.
Yeah, if the Rams lose out. And then you have Chicago, who would have the pick over the Rams currently. Could they win a game the rest of the regular season? Potentially.
Yeah, they got Philly, Buffalo, Detroit, Minnesota. I don't know about.
Minnesota's going to wrap up the division.
Yeah.
This week they're probably going to wrap up the division. Unless Philly loses a game, they might not have incentive to play that last game because Philly has the tiebreaker.
Yeah.
So there's a potential win for Chicago remaining on the roster. The other one, if Denver beats the Rams, then Denver obviously will have a better record if the Rams lose out.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's very possible that the Rams end up with the #1 overall pick and have to give it to the Lions.
Oh, that'd be sweet. That's like a dream scenario for everything we've been through, but it's still a dream right now. Still a dream. But I appreciate your encouraging words here, James. And so that is question of the week. For anybody who's out there, we want you to play. In fact, I'll tell you what, if you want to play question of the week, I'll bookmark that shit for you too. Any takers, please. All right, man. That's all I got for tonight, man. You got any closing thoughts?
I don't think so.
All right. Well, let's wrap it up, man. It was a good time, James. I'll catch you later, man.
All right, sounds good. Have a good one.
See ya.
Gridiron Grinder. Hut hut hike.